the Chancellor there, Jeremy Hunt, announcing, as was expected, that there would be cuts in certain amounts of taxes. But the big surprise, perhaps, Beth, the energy help guarantee for homes will end in April.
Yes, let's just... I mean, that went further, didn't it, than all of us thought it would. There's two things in there. Number one, he has just junked the entire mini-budget. The only things, as I was saying before, that have remained in place are the tax measures that were already either implemented, the stamp duty cut, or had been legislated for, which is the NI cut. So other than that, everything else has been scrapped, and he went further. Jeremy Hunt announced that income tax cut to 19 pence from April 2020 is scrapped. And it's not just delayed, which is the Rishi Sunak original plan, which was the former administration's original plan. It's cut indefinitely. And he said the measures together would raise 32 billion. So a complete reversal of Truss's budget. But he went further, and this is politically, I think, very significant, because he said that the government will only commit to carrying out the energy support package. Remember, this was this £60 billion package at the moment and could have grown and grown until April next year, and then it will be reviewed by the Treasury. Now, the reason that that's significant politically for Truss is that her 2-year guarantee to households has been the political platform on which she has tried to salvage her premiership. So every time she faced a difficult question, it was like, well, I'm doing the energy package bill. And more than that, in the Commons, you remember the Labour policy, Sir Keir Starmer's policy, was the windfall tax on big energy companies to support bills up to April 2023. And she used this, the Prime Minister used this as an attack line on Labour, saying, I've got a 2-year plan, what about you? So he's just pulled the rug from under her on that as well. The massive reversals, I think, are a scale of the predicament the government sees itself in terms of the markets. Ed will be looking at how they're reacting. I think politically for Truss, he's now just undone another plank, the last plank, if you like, of her entire premiership.
And Ed, what has been the market reaction?
So far, so calm, it looks like. I'll bring some charts up in a moment, but it's that gilt yield we were talking about a moment ago, that key barometer for how markets are feeling about this, more or less steady. It went down a little bit. Good news, kind of went up a tiny bit. So, you know, for the time being, that's reassuring. But as we were discussing just before we heard from the Chancellor there, that was the interesting thing. He went further than a U-turn. He scrapped that income tax cut that Rishi Sunak had planned. That really hadn't been speculated on, until this moment. And the energy price guarantee, the fact that it was originally for 2 years rather than for, over this winter, that did raise eyebrows at the time. And it does mean it will be a lot cheaper than it would otherwise have been, provided prices stay high. Remember, it's all about prices and where those wholesale prices and where they go.
Because I heard Dominic Lawson talking about this today, and he was pointing out that the government essentially made this promise, said we will spend all this money, but they're basing it on something that they can't control. They can't control the energy prices internationally, and they don't know. It could go up, it could go down.
Yeah, ironically,
they might not need them.
Ironically, they might not need it.
Yeah.
Because if those prices are staying below where that cap is, then the cap on unit prices wouldn't actually apply anymore, and so you have kind of a virtuous circle, both for the public finances, but also for this policy and how much it affects people. I don't know. I've got a chart, so maybe we'll see if we can kind of get that up on the screen. But I think this has gone further. This has gone further than people were expecting. We didn't, obviously, you'll notice, we didn't have anything from the OBR, and people hadn't expected the OBR to come in this time around, the Office of Budget Responsibility. They do the formal forecasts. We didn't have anything specific on spending, but again, that wasn't really expected this time. He said that they're going to bring it forward to prevent any kind... And normally, this is kind of what happens in budget processes. Ahead of a budget or ahead of kind of a big announcement, the Treasury's working on it. They're going back and forth with the OBR, working out the sums. It goes to Cabinet as well, and you get the prospect of leaks. And I think you heard that message, didn't you, from the Chancellor? Because of the fear of instability right now, they're doing it very differently indeed. And that comes back to what we were talking about a moment ago, just before, which is that right now, in a very peculiar way that I can't remember ever being the case in the UK, economic policy is being made with primarily the markets in mind. That is not something not since 1992 and Black Wednesday, when the UK was thrown out of the ERM, have we had a moment quite like that. And it's kind of extraordinary. I don't know if we can show these charts, but I've got the gilt yields, if you want to see it. It's kind of gone down a little bit in the last kind of few minutes. But like I say, that's something they'll be kind of relatively reassured by, because so far, at least, things, you know, it's been such a nervy few weeks. This isn't sending things the wrong way. I think that's the best we can say at the moment.
And Beth, you know, Ed was saying that, you know, obviously, and you were saying that it needed it has got. Oh, there's the chart.
Yeah,
just quickly talk.
Well, let me quickly show you, because there is a bit. So you can see that that's just the last 3 days. Thursday, the higher this is, the more the bank and people are going to be concerned about this. And here's the thing. Look, I'm going to bring on an extra line, and you can see that's what's happened just now. There it is. So it's kind of down a touch.
It's going in the right
right-hand
direction.
side. It's going in the right direction, and they'll be kind of reassured by that. But it's early days, so let's just keep an eye on that.
And Beth, Ed is pointing out, you know, that this is such a huge changes coming in a really short space of time. In a sense, did the new Chancellor almost need to do this? In the sense, we've had so much tinkering since this mini budget. As you say, there's been this salami slicing. There almost needed to be a full stop.
It was the salami slicing. But look, I think in terms of the markets, what's he done there? He has basically said, not only am I reversing these, I'm going to be even more cautious about public finances, because I understand that these unfunded spending and tax commitments, unless I completely overcorrect almost, we can't begin to calm the markets. What he said about the point about all of that is that the entire platform of the Truss administration is gone. It's gone, it's done. I mean, her energy support plan is basically now much more similar, difference in how you pay for it, but basically the same as Labour's. That was her big ticket. I'm going to give 2 years of support. He's junked that. And all of her mini budget. I mean, it's genuinely shocking in terms of how a Prime Minister and her cabinet got this so wrong and had to reverse in such a dramatic way. In terms of what he says about, this is what he says about the energy support plan. He said the biggest single expense in the growth plan was energy price guarantee. This is a landmark policy supporting millions through the difficult winter. Today, I can confirm support will not change between now and April next year, but me and the Prime Minister agreed that beyond that is not responsible to continue exposing public finances to unlimited volatility in international gas markets. And then he says we will have a Treasury-led review to see how we can support energy bills beyond April next year. So it's not just the tax decisions in the mini budget that the new Chancellor now says are just not viable. He's now saying that the policy platform, her big shock and awe announcement as it was billed in the run-up to that announcement, is also just economically not viable. And that is another body blow to the Prime Minister today.
OK, Beth and Ed, thank you both for now.